Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to this episode of Spirit Tarot and Healing Arts. I'm your host, Rin. You'll likely notice that the format of this video is different than my usual content. That's because I have 3 YouTube channels and only so many spoons since I am chronically ill. I realized that I was able to produce content more reliably back when I was doing the Spirit Tarot podcast back in the day. So for now, at least, most of my content is going to be in the podcast format like this. If I do flip through videos for decks, obviously those will be actual videos, but the talking portions will probably be podcasts, at least for the foreseeable future. That way I can actually get content up on all 3 channels. I had a lot of ideas swirling around when deciding on what to talk about for this particular episode, and I finally settled on a tarot tag that I've been wanting to do for a while. This is the Coffeehouse Decks tag by Amidst the Gray. I will link the original video in the description box below so that you can go check out her video. For those of you who have followed me for a while, it is no surprise to you that I love coffee. So this is a tarot tag after my own soul. And some of you even know that I created my own coffee-themed oracle deck. So I had to do this tag. And so what Amidst the Gray created is a list of 13 types of coffee and a type of deck that they correspond to each of the types of coffee. And then we as readers say what deck we use or have had that fits that cup of coffee / theme for us. So here are my decks that correspond to her list of coffees. And I know we've talked about income inequality in the tarot community before. I am not going to be going and looking up the cost of each one of these decks currently that I'm going to be talking about today. They are all mass market decks, so they range from $15 to around $30. Just keep that in mind if any of them happen to pique your interest and you think you might be interested in purchasing any of them. And again, I am not affiliated with any of these decks or creators. These are just my personal opinions. All right, so I've got my cup of coffee. You can pause to go grab yourself a cup of coffee if you'd like, and let's begin. Number 1 is the espresso shot. It's a deck that's strong, punchy, and gets straight to the point. That would have to be the Russian Tarot of St. Petersburg. This is the first deck that I really connected with, and I've always said this deck pulls no punches. It's going to give you straight to the point answers that do not care about your feelings. The second one is the Drip, a deck that's simple, accessible, and gets the job done. For me, Transient Light Tarot all the way. The art style is very simple but beautiful. There's not a lot going on in the cards. They're not busy, which sometimes is a good thing. Sometimes I like a card loaded with images, and sometimes I like something more simple. There's also no people in this deck, so that we don't get caught up in who's who, but we focus more on what's what. So that's the Drip for me. The Pour Over. A deck you need to take your time with, but it's totally worth the effort. The Chicoli Tarot for me. Her art is so compelling, and while the deck is done in the Rider-Waite-Smith system, her artwork just really stretches and expands your interpretations of the cards. This can be a hard deck for some people to work with. I've seen a lot of people say that. You tend to either love it and want to put in the work, or you're just not feeling it. And I even have to take my time with it, but that is not a bad thing. I get absolutely stunning readings with this deck, and the more I pour over this deck, the more I get out of it. 4 is the Cafe Latte, a deck that's well received and highly palatable. For this one, I've got to go with the Good Tarot. This deck is specifically designed for those who aren't ready to face some of the cards that can be seen as daunting or scary in the tarot. Now, I'm a firm believer that there are no negative cards in the tarot. It's all a matter of interpretation. And if something comes up that's challenging, that gives us an opportunity to work on that. By facing that, we can either avoid its energies and challenges and obstacles, or we can work to do damage control, minimize those, etc. But there are people that are intimidated by certain cards in the tarot deck, and I understand that. So this deck has no quote-unquote negative cards, and while I'm a fan of facing anything challenging that comes up in a reading, this can be a good option for those who are just dipping their toes into tarot and are a little nervous about the endeavor. It can also be like if you're really shell-shocked or really upset about something and you need a very gentle message, this is a good deck for that time too. 5, we have the Cappuccino, a deck that's classic, sophisticated, and maybe a bit fussy. This is any variation of the Rider-Waite-Smith for me. There's no denying that the Rider-Waite-Smith is classic, but I do see it as fussy for sure, at least for me. Those of you, again, who know my story around tarot know that I started with the Rider-Waite-Smith, but my reading skills didn't really click and take off until I got the Russian Tarot of St. Petersburg. 6, we've got the Mocha, a deck that's rich, indulgent, and a bit extra. I had to think about this one because I had a couple different decks competing for the Mocha, but it's got to be the Mystical Manga Tarot for me. I love when I get a chance to use this deck in client readings, but it certainly can be a bit extra. The Devil card in particular, it's so weird, but it's not super graphic, but it's just done in a way that sort of makes people just kind of like, ooh, that's a bit much. I've seen several people have that reaction to that card in this deck. So that's my one, that it's rich. The artwork is so rich. It does feel indulgent. It does feel a little over the top in my opinion. And, it can be a touch extra, but I love it. 7, we've got the Cortado, a deck that's balanced and objective. Gotta be the Crow Tarot for me. That deck is no fuss, no muss, and the answers I get from it are objective like a therapist. That one just really cuts to the quick of it, and just really, it's very objective. And I do sometimes use it for client readings. I'll go through periods of time where I do, but a lot of times I wind up saving the Crow Tarot just for myself. However, I did get the corresponding Oracle deck, the Urban Crow Oracle. And I have to tell you that deck and we have a love-hate relationship. I love the artwork. I love that creator. I love that deck with the Crow Tarot. However, that deck does not love me. It is mean to me, y'all. It is mean to me every time I try to use it for myself. I use it for a client. It is so sweet. It gives the best answers. So gentle. So advising and guiding. And yeah, for me, no. It's like, just slaps me upside the face. All right. 8, we have the Kanpana. A deck, and I'm not sure that I'm saying that right because I have never had that cup of coffee. But anyhow, a deck that puts you in your place, but with a hint of sweetness. The Darkwood Tarot, it's a dark deck. We can't deny that. And it doesn't shy away from challenging energies or situations. But it's also got a bit of a sweet fairy tale vibe to it. I think of it as something in between the original Grimm Tales and the overly sweetened Disney versions of the classic fairy tales. So, it's dark, and it'll really hit you in, the gut if you're trying to not face something. But at the same time, there's just this touch of sweetness to it. 9, the Chai Latte, a deck that's warm, cozy, and nurturing. Excuse me while I get a sip of coffee. There's nothing much for me to say about this particular deck, but my chai latte has to be the Lightseer's Tarot. If a deck could be a safe space, that's what this deck would be for me. It's just very cozy. It's very, like, if I want the truth, but I don't want smacked upside the head, like by the Dark Wood Tarot or the Russian Tarot St. Petersburg. You know, the Light Seers Tarot is truthful. It'll bring up challenging energies if need be, but it does it in a way that's like cozy, warm, nurturing, and you just feel safe as you're exploring those concepts with that deck. 10, we've got the Matcha Latte, a deck that's an acquired taste or a bit unconventional. I'd have to say the Food Fortunes Tarot fits this bill really well. And if you're interested, I do have a flip through video of this deck and a video on how I read with it, because it wasn't intended to be a working deck. And that's why I feel like it fits this one so well. 11, we've got the Hot Chocolate, a deck that speaks to a younger version of yourself. For me, I gotta go with the Hocus Pocus Tarot. I was a teen when the movie first came out in 1993, the original movie, and I have been in love with that movie ever since. First of all, I love Halloween, and then Hocus Pocus, how can you not? And I also love the sequel. I know a lot of us were very trepidatious. We weren't sure how we would feel about the sequel, but I absolutely loved the sequel. I even have the songs from the sequel on my Spotify. I love it so much. So my Hot Chocolate deck has to be the Hocus Pocus Tarot. I will say, though, that kind of like Hot Chocolate, Hot Chocolate is not serious to me. It's very whimsical. It's very just for fun. And I will use the Hocus Pocus Tarot for like pick a card readings, but I don't use it for a lot of client readings because it's an Insight Editions deck, and it's pips, and I just tend to shy away from those for client readings. But they're fun. It's, you know, all the Insight Edition decks, but particularly the Hocus Pocus, they're fun to use at fun times. You know, you have some friends over, you're talking and you just want to draw some cards from each other. That's when I use the Hocus Pocus Tarot the most. All right, so 12, we've got the Italian Soda. Now, I'm not quite sure how that fits into a Coffeehouse deck because none of my coffee houses serve Italian soda. But I don't have anything against Italian soda. There's an Italian restaurant here that serves really good Italian soda that my kids love. But whether or not that has anything to do with a coffee house, I digress. There could be coffee houses that serve Italian soda. But it's a deck that's fun, low-key, and not overly serious. I had to go with the Pasta Tarot for this one. You can't take this deck or yourself too seriously when you read with it. It is something else. It is so over the top, and I'm sure that there are people who do very serious readings with the Pasta Tarot. I cannot. That has to be like, you know, when you're just asking stuff because you just want to work with the cards and you just want to expand, or you just want to, you know, do a daily check-in, but you just want something whimsical and funny and just a bit out there. Yeah, that's the Pasta Tarot for me. And then lastly, but certainly not least, we have number 13, the Herbal Tea. And this is a deck that takes things down a notch or helps you unwind. Okay, I'm just going to, this one's probably going to seem weird to some of you. But for me, this deck, my Herbal Tea deck, has to be the Antique Anatomy Tarot. I like dark decks, so it probably isn't a surprise to anyone who knows me that I find this to be a super chill deck for me. I realize that other people would look at this and be like, how is anatomy drawings with flowers relaxing and chill to you? But it is for me. It almost kind of has, not in an art style sense, but I feel like it's a deck that the Addams Family would have used, and I grew up on the Addams Family. That was my favorite show as a kid, and I just feel like, you know, a cousin of Morticia or something would use that deck for tarot readings, and I just find it really relaxed and chill, and that, you know, when I just want to sip a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and just sling some cards for myself just to relax and chill on a rainy day, that's one of the decks I just gravitate towards. And those are my Coffeehouse decks. Again, I will put a link to the original video in the description box. Did you hear any of the 13 coffees and go, I need a deck that has that vibe? Do you have a preference for which type of deck / coffee you like to read with most? Or is there one that you just really can't swallow trying to read with? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, whether it's to tell me, you know, which deck you have goes to which coffee, or what your favorite type of coffee deck to read with is, or your least favorite. Just tell me all that down below, because I do really, really love to hear from y'all. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you'd like to book a private reading with me, you can do so through my website or through my Etsy shop. And this is just a reminder, I do not ever go into the comments or anyone's DMs anywhere on any social media platform and ask you to get a reading from me or ask anybody for money. If you want a personal reading with me, you have to come to me. I do not seek people out. So if somebody messages you or leaves a comment asking you to get a reading or to send them money, that is a scammer and it is not me. So that goes for all ethical tarot readers on any social media platform. So just keep that in mind. If somebody's messaging you, asking you to purchase a reading or to send them money, don't do it. They are a scammer. But with that reminder said, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Until I see you again, blessings to you wherever your journey finds you.